I'm Leanne Skirpay. I hail here in Fargo, North Dakota. I oversee the 4-H animal science program here. And I have a couple of my colleagues on here that I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce. So Brian, you want to shout out and introduce yourself?
Sure, I guess I wasn't expecting that, but Brian Zimprick, Ransom County ag agent, and work with Leanne on some of our 4-H animal science programming.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. And Rick, you want to shout out and tell us who you are?
Sure. I'm Rick Schmidt, the Oliver County Extension Agent, and one of those guys that grew up not just too far from Jeff, so know him quite well.
Very cool. And Dean, you want to give us a shout out who you are? Oh, you're still on mute. Sorry. There we go.
Yeah, I'm Dean Ockery. I'm a 4-H youth specialist at NDSU campus, so a colleague of Leanne's, and I'll be also kind of watching the group chats tonight. So if you have questions along the line, we'll make sure that they were able to ask them. So we're looking forward to this. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Dean. And so if you see Dean, Brian, or Rick answering things in the chat box, just know that they're safe. They're with us with NDSU Extension. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jeff and Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are so excited to hear from you. And I'm going to turn this over to you guys.
We are the final, I think, of your series. Is that right, Leanne?
That is correct.
The Fisto Resistant. for those of you that speak French or thereof. So, yes, I'm Jeff Tigger Erhardt. I've gone by Tigger for years. As Brian, I call him Zimmy. I've known him for years. This is what's kind of neat is I looked at the list and I'm like, oh my gosh, here's friends for years that have been on here. So like Brian and I have been best friends for years, and Rick Schmidt, I haven't talked to Rick in many, many years. Christina's on here, and everybody else, welcome and thanks for coming on. But also Rebecca Wanner sitting beside me. So I think it's only appropriate that we go ladies first to let you just introduce yourself.
Awesome.
And tell them
a little bit about
tell
me.
them about you.
But you're such a man of so many words. You do it so well.
I can be quiet the whole time.
That's impressive. Yes, my name's Rebecca Wanner, and I am also an NDSU graduate. I was an animal science major, graduated years ago, we'll put it that way. A little bit about myself. I've grew up on a cattle ranch. That's why I went into animal science, enjoyed it a lot. I was animal science along with ag econ and equine science. I kind of put everything I could about ranching into my degree. And after college, I was able to do some interesting things I hadn't planned. I was able to continue building my herd over the years of doing shares with beginner farmers and ranchers because I didn't have access.
You're talking
to
your cattle.
My cattle herd.
Okay.
I was able to grow my cattle herd. I don't really know where we wanted to start. If that's kind of what we wanted to tell about ourselves, or am I doing this the right way?
You're doing perfect.
Okay. All right. So I knew I wanted to always maintain cattle, but I didn't have the land in order to do it. So I started a business with shares, running share cattle with beginner farmers and ranchers, acting as the livestock owner, and they were they owned the land and they ran everything for me. And then on the side, I started a career in manufacturing, which kind of surprised me because of my background in animals, and you're able to buy cows. I ended up working in purchasing for many years. So I was able to work for a large OEM, Bobcat. Actually, I worked for them for a number of years, and then another manufacturer, but working with purchasing, which who would have thought? But I was told from the beginning, from the get-go, that if I could buy cows, I could buy anything. And I did that for a number of years.
If that'd be good or bad.
Right, I don't know, but it was pretty interesting because on a team of almost 30, there was multiples. There's several of us with an animal and range science degree. Who would have thought? You would have thought these would have been pure supply chain business degrees, but there was actually a number of us that all had animal and range science, and it all came back down to having those core values, common sense, and understanding a little bit broader aspect of the world. So I've done that for many years. And then most recently, in the last couple of years, got into more communications work. and was able to get published in Working Ranch magazine, do some of that. And then on the side, especially with the pandemic, Tigger and I were able to get into doing a lot more of these live streams with new technology, and started working with programmers for a different competitor to Zoom. But anyway, we're able to create newscasts out of our own home with the focus on the ranching community. And we did that for some time, and now we're branching off and starting our own business in the communications world. And that's where Tigger brought me into the radio world. And most recently, now am hosting my own outdoor adventure
That is
radio
so
show.
cool. Wow. Well, thanks so much for introducing yourself. All right, who's next?
Just kind of my background, which was interesting. I grew up not far from where we are today. Ironically, us being back in Mandan and moving right in the middle of all this COVID ordeal. But I grew up, not far from where Rebecca did, kind of the same thing on a commercial cow-calf outfit. And I actually kind of took what I was doing with my degree, and, I was on the judging team and I was on the rodeo team. And so I kind of went down the way of, had some commercial cows and raised some show calves and got into the seed stock deal. Not going to say all the success in the world. I'm going to say got into it, but that was kind of the immediate, I guess, of what I did in terms of my animal science degree. But then while I was there at school, and Brian, Mr. Zimprick can attest to this, that I had the knack for communicating. Obviously, I get real shy about stuff. And that's one thing that we really want people to be able to take home is whatever that skill is, don't be afraid to hone that skill, whatever that is. And for me, it was my voice, it was communicating, and that's what's, led me where I am today. I was in the cattle marketing business for a number of years, and what we're doing today, it's actually very exciting. As Rebecca said, we have a communications business, but both of us have nationally syndicated radio shows. Rebecca's is very new, that she just started with hers. Hers, as she said, to focus on a little bit more of an outdoor, natural resource type feel to it.
Conservation.
Yeah, conservation stuff. Mine very much from a ranching, cowboy, and cattle rodeo perspective. So we've been very fortunate in what we do. Both of us being ranchers, both of us having cattle herds. Hers way more successful than mine. I will be so honest about this, everybody, and that's okay. At least one of us, I guess, is successful in the cow business. But our efforts in terms of business have kind of been twofold. They've been really focusing on our syndicated radio shows, which, interestingly enough, is only phase one of a 3-phase project that we are hoping to have launched by the first of the year. And then the other side to a lot of this equation is where Leanne had kind of promoted us. I've been a pro rodeo announcer for a number of years, but like so many people that are required to travel this year, it kind of shut it down. I know Leanne's going like this. So to put it into perspective, normally in any given year, the number of rodeos I'll do is 20 to 30 rodeos. And I did one rodeo all year, one rodeo. That's all we did. And that was in Wing, North Dakota, of all places. Wing, right. It wasn't in South Texas. It wasn't in Oklahoma City where I had those 2 big bull ridings. It was none of that. It wasn't in Okeechobee. It was in Wing, North Dakota. So we had one rodeo was all that we did. But that is a little bit, just kind of a really fast forward take of who we are, what we're doing today. And so I think because we have such a unique career, we've really developed our own careers is what we've done. We're self-employed, obviously. I think maybe the best thing that we can do is just open it up for questions, maybe. Is that okay, Leanne, that we can do that? And, and just let people chime in and let's just visit.
Perfect. And I have tons of questions too. So kind of like before, those of you that have been on here, you kind of know the drill. Go ahead and put some questions in the chat box for them. But I'm going to start rocking and rolling with questions until I see them come through, and Dean will help me out monitoring that. So let's start out with one of the first ones, and either one of you can choose who wants to answer it first. What does a typical day look like in your career field?
You want to take that one?
Oh, gosh. Well, what might surprise some people, because we do work from home and we work together, is that, you know, people say, oh, they work from home, and our studio and my office are in our home. So we are very close, working very intimately together all day long. But some people may be surprised is that we get up at about 6 every morning and head into the gym. That's how we start our day. We head into the gym. Exactly. Health. If we aren't healthy, we aren't going to be here for a long time. So we head into.
As I'm guzzling coffee.
I know.
In the middle of this,
I'm
right?
drinking coffee
Right.
too. So that's how our day starts. But we head into the gym, get our workouts in, and get home and get ready and dressed like it was any other day. Whether you're going out to do ranch work, go
Yes.
to the office, meet with a client, it doesn't matter. But by 8 a.m. we are dressed, ready for the day ahead. And that just really sets us up for success in our way.
I really love that. Anything to add to that, Tigger?
That I'm going to say yes. That's the most important. I always, Zimmy's going to know this because he's heard this one before. My philosophies. I think he's read the book, and that is, it's very important because although Rebecca and I are very much intimately involved in livestock production, animal agriculture, cattle specifically, you know, buying and selling, and, you know, we're making money and losing money, just like everybody else that we talk about every week. We also are indirectly related to that. So what I mean by that is every day, it's very important for us to get up and act as if, you know, we don't have our cows right out here. They're not on our present location, but we act as though they are. So we are always getting up. We are pretending that we still have to feed cows at 6 in the morning. It's just, we have to feed our bodies and our souls. And we go in and we work out and we do those things. Just like at night, there is a time to shut down. And that is so very, very important that a person takes time. So our typical day, it's all over the boards. I spend a lot of time, the studio is just across from me. So I spend a lot of my day in front of a microphone, in front of a computer, and it's mentally taxing. Very, very mentally taxing what Rebecca and I do.
The creativity.
Yes.
Very hard to keep
Yes.
the creativity going at times. You wouldn't think so, but it can be very taxing.
Right. And having a, you know, doing television and having a national syndicated radio show. Oh, everybody, it's really cool. But I will be honest, it is one of the hardest things I've ever done, because what's very interesting about our career, and we're on Sirius XM every single week, every Saturday we're there. We're on a number of different radio stations up and down cow country in the central part of the country. But it doesn't matter if Rebecca's having a bad day, her show's got to get done. Just like cows got to get fed. They don't care if it's Christmas or Thanksgiving. You know, we have deadlines that we have to meet every week, health issues that we'll deal with, you know, cows that get out. We have cow dogs here. All of those things come into play. So our typical day is we try to adhere very much to a calendar. I'm sorry, I don't mean to dominate the conversation, but we try to adhere to a day, but it can go like this, because our challenge isn't about necessarily the bull that got in with the neighbors, or trying to market our calves, or it's too wet, we can't go bale hay. Ours, the challenge is the creativity to tell the stories about the people whose bull got out every day and where they can't, or the rodeo was canceled, or the bronc rider that got busted up. That's the creative challenge, I think, that we have.
That's really cool. You know, it's actually been quite an ongoing theme. Most of our speakers are all getting up at 4 or 5 a.m. So hopefully our young ears on here aren't like, oh, I never want to do that, because it isn't really start.
Right?
But thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's a really key thing for our listeners to hear, how you guys kind of mentioned not only to kickstart the day and get that momentum going, but also to shut down. So that was really cool. Dean, did you have a question?
Well, yeah, actually, Tana and Tegan Lee have a question here, so that's great. But before I go to their question, I'm going to follow up on just what you said. Have you always been that early riser, go get them, exercise first kind of thing, or is that something you found you had to develop?
Good question.
No, I'm not. I say every morning. My mom gave me an alarm clock in kindergarten because she said I put everyone in such a bad mood.
Oh, that's
I am not a great early morning person, but Tigger is.
Yeah,
And so
I do. I like
I've
to
taken
get
one for
more.
the team.
I do.
and
I like to
adjusted
get-
my life accordingly.
Yeah.
But working out has always been. I've always been very much in sports. And I'm an intramural. I mean, I was just bummed because my volleyball team just got kiboshed in the last week due to the pandemic. So we're very big into
Well, gosh, we were
fitness.
trying to get married, and all of a sudden the pandemic happened, and I mean, it put a kibosh on us to even get married. So I mean, there you go. I mean, put a kibosh on everything.
Well, so what you're saying is that whether it's natural for you, you can train yourself to do that. So
Yes.
awesome. So anyway, so Tana and Tegan's question is, what was the most exciting name you got to announce that made you go, whoa?
a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I hate that I say this, but my 4th of July run was always in Rush, Colorado. And I just got hooked up with that rodeo, and I was there for 3 days. And it was a really, really big amateur rodeo. And it was on the way and it was open, meaning that amateurs could enter and the PRCA people could enter. So I was getting these cowboys and cowgirls that were on their way, like to Calgary or to Mobridge, South Dakota is a big one, to Mandan, North Dakota, that were coming and going. And now I just had it on the tip of my, God dang it, let's see, Trevor Brazil.
Oh,
That was probably my biggest one. That was in honor to say Trevor's name. Sage Kimsey, he was
Oh, yeah.
riding that one night. So that was really cool. World champion bull rider, to be able to announce his name.
Mhm.
But honestly, I got to say it was Trevor Brazil. To answer your question, I think this was Tana and Tegan said that. That was just really neat. Although I was a bull rider for many years, having somebody that has just been so darn successful.
Mhm.
And Sage, he didn't have as many world titles a few years ago as he does now. So, but Trevor Brazil did. So answering that question, that was a real treat, and I didn't know it. And all of a sudden, no, and it's Trevor Brazil, and I kind of had the what? So I really had to ham it up. And so there's something y'all learned. You got to prepare and do your homework, because I got caught at that one.
That's very cool. I love that question. Thank you, Lise, for shouting that one out. Really good question. Trevor is definitely an idol. I just picked up roping, so I watch him a lot. All right. So for both of you, what degree is required, if there is one, for landing a job in your field, or what can you give as advice to the people listening?
I'm going to say it's important to have a degree. That to us is so very important. And we are very appreciative of our time at NDSU, not just meeting friends, but honestly, Brian, his family to me has been ever since we met each other. And here's the important thing is that the young people that are listening, or anybody else that's listening, may think about going back to school, is it's not necessarily the degree, be it animal science or ag communication or something like that. It shows the world that you committed to something and you saw it through. That's the very, 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 very important thing, because there are many wonderful jobs in the field of agriculture, of animal science, of all of that. But if you can show the world that you committed to something and you accomplished it, that right there is very huge. So specifically for us, that's kind of a little bit hard because it almost, in terms of was there a degree required, we carved out our own path. You know, we had the tenacity, sometimes the stupidity with it too, I think, you know, because we didn't make the right decisions all the time. And I think it's honest to say that, but we had the tenacity to carve out our own future and to recognize, you know, our talents of where we felt that this is really a God-given talent that we have.
I would agree with what he had to say. Yeah, what you have to say. That's very true. And the other advice I would say is to, you know, there's so much to be said that you, like you said, you finished a degree, but then also then as you move on to the next step in however your career may be, don't ever go into it with a closed mind. Always keep your mind open and the doors open, because you never know where it would go. Because if we get into the small its and bits of what I've done in these broad ranges of careers, you would sit there and go, whoa, what? But it was really cool. All because you kept your mind open and said, why not? What have you got to lose by trying this? And every experience have learned tenfold what I ever would have thought. I might have griped, I might have grumbled, I might have called mom saying, why am I doing this? But in the long run, it's been pretty amazing where it's led both of us to, when you hear the other sides of it.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. So commitment and open-minded, and that is such a good wisdom bomb for all of those ears on here to really soak that up, because change is okay. You might commit to animal science and then go a completely different direction, and that's okay. So
well, believe me, I didn't think I'd be having a radio show 3 months ago.
That is
There you go.
so awesome. Thank you so much for that wisdom. All right, we're still waiting on some questions, so I'm going to change gears here a little bit. All right, so a lot of times when we think about professionalism, or we think about anything in the industry, or just kind of stepping out of your house and going somewhere that you're seeking a job or whatever, if I were to say the word first impression, what does that mean to you guys, and how important is it?
You want me to go first on this one?
Go for it.
First impression for what we do is it is everything. With that, a person has to be really true to who and what you are. And I'm very big for that, of whatever that is, embrace that. But the first impression is so important for us, especially because the first impression might be right here on this video conference. The first impression might be listening to us on the radio. The first impression might be watching one of our webinars that we're putting on. The first impression might be the rodeo that we are announcing. The first impression might be the first time that we haul our potload of calves instead of our local sale barn, maybe we sold them over a video auction company. First impression is so darn important, because for a lot of us that, I use this phrase, live at the end of dirt roads, we have things that are very near and dear to us and are very important to us. And there's traditions and there's values, and they're very deep and they're very personal and they're very, very emotional. And that first impression, if that can get maybe skewed just a little bit, there is that potential down the road that maybe we won't be given a fair shake or a fair chance. So with us, it's even taken to another degree, because we represent an industry and we are willing to be very transparent on our social medias, on everything that we do. We try to be very responsible with that. We don't take it with a grain of salt. We take it with all the seriousness in the world, because we are representing other people. And that happens even in junior breed associations and junior shows. So even if somebody is dragging some club lambs around, or if you're showing steers, or if you're in a junior show, junior rodeo, I don't care what you're doing, that right there is so darned important, because I have some humorous stories I've shared before over my lifetime, but there's always somebody watching, and there's always somebody, looking. There's young people that are watching you right now at shows. They're watching what you're doing and they want to do what you do. But remember that you are always representing something bigger than yourself. even when you're at your local steer show, you're representing something bigger than yourself. So take pride in that, in everything that you're doing. So I really carry on. I'm having fun with it. Sorry.
That was so good.
I'm just your side. I'm just a sidekick.
No, you're not. You're every bit a part of this crew. I love it. Oh, that's such good wisdom. I think, Brian, you want to jump in? I think you might have a question for us to roll on.
Sure. Tigger, Rebecca, thank you first of all for doing this tonight. Do you want to give your philosophy, wisdom, question on internships, and also getting involved in extracurricular activities or to successful careers down the road?
All I heard was successful careers down the road. Brian, you might have to
Did I
type
break
that
out
out. It was cutting out real bad.
We're all looking at Dean going, Dean, can you decipher this for us, please, sir?
Well, I got another bar here, so maybe it'll work.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, Tigger, Beck, first of all, thanks for doing this. Give us your wisdom, input on what your philosophy idea is on youth obtaining internships as they go through high school, college, also getting involved in extracurricular activities and other organizations to move on to have a successful career.
That was good. Perfect, Brian. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'm going to share the quote that I always tell my nephews and fellow little younger youth kids that follow that I'm close with. I always say, if you're ever given the shot in life, take the shot. And that can be anything from that free throw at the line to you're given an internship to you're asked to step up and handed a mic. You never shy away. If you're ever given a shot in anything in life, take the shot. You never know where that road might go. And I know, internships, I feel, are very important if you can get them, because the more you can learn from others, that's more information you can take home and use then further down your life, whether it's on your operation, whether you're going to become a part of another operation. Regardless, these are all learning avenues. Don't ever walk away from them. I mean, in college, I even went over to France and did overseas, for a semester. Unbelievable opportunity. Who would have thought that fast forward a couple of years, I'd end up in manufacturing and get sent back over there for a computer implementation and ended up on the same beaches I had been in college. I never thought I'd get to go back. So, you just never know where those roads could take. So that's what I always say, take those shots. Don't be afraid. I'm trying to think, what was the third part of that question?
Well, just about
Any sort of extracurricular activity?
Oh, extracurriculars, absolutely. It's no different than you're doing livestock showing, 4-H, FFA. It's all networking, because in the end of the day, the networking, you're always going to love those people you went to high school with. You'll have those friendships, but the more networking you can do, and especially with social media, lets you keep up with people. It's crazy where your career paths will take. Even back to, Tigger and I crossed paths a decade ago or 12 years ago, and then crossed paths again a couple of years later. Just never would have thought. We've each moved 1,000 miles away in different directions, but working and whatever, it all brought us back. And I see that again in what we do, even with our livelihoods, with our communications businesses. It's always about networking, and it's going all the way back to people you went to grade school with, to anybody you might have crossed paths with. So yes, join those extracurriculars and take any opportunity that comes your way. Just do it. You have nothing to, I guess I don't see how it could ever hold you back.
I'm going to spin off that a little bit, not necessarily so much with the with the extracurricular, because yes, I agree with Rebecca on that. But in terms to the internships, and let's just use animal science for an example that, you know, there's a half, I know half of you very personally here, and we all got animal science degrees, and or very close to that. And we had ideas of what we wanted to do, what that specific job was. And mine, I remember I wanted to work for Transova Genetics when I was in college. That was my thing. I wanted a job with Transova Genetics, and I wanted to get into embryology at the time because that's what we were doing on our ranch. That is a wonderful field. I got so tunnel vision with that. And then when it didn't work, things were kind of falling apart. In animal science, a lot of people will say, well, and I know it's changed from back in the days when we were in school. We're saying that back in the days when we were in school. But people think of your animal science jobs as working for breed associations, right? Working for publications and giving feed sales jobs, selling semen, you know, reproductive jobs, things like that is what they're thinking about. And when you go after these internships, I tell you what, it takes the pyramid and it goes like this, and it gives you such different opportunities. Because remember what I said, my end all be all was working for Transova Genetics, and I wanted to raise show steers. I wanted to announce rodeos, ride horses, be a cowboy, and everything was going to be great. Totally different than what I'm doing now, because I took some of those internships. I did when I was in college, and all of a sudden my window went like this, and my pyramid went like this, and I learned very quickly, and it solidified for me. It was communications was where I needed to be. So when you have the opportunity to get involved, that's the other thing. You need to have those under your belt, because the world has changed. We're not going back to a normal. There's no way we aren't going back there. We don't even know what the world is going to be. So if you can have any advantage, any young people out there, as you're starting to do those extracurricular activities and the networking that Rebecca was talking about, when you have those internships and you showed that you did that, that's another one of those things that you set out to do and you accomplished that. And that can potentially put you just a tick higher than the next person. And I think in the world going forward, everybody's going to kind of have to have a little bit of a competitive advantage, because there is such a question mark on the horizon.
Oh my
I'm
God.
going to jump right into that too, and tie again. Is it falls back on that earlier question about first impressions. They're just as important, and it's important, or it's just as high up there. So as you remember, we just said, don't close a door on anything. And so every one of those are opportunities to be a first impression, where you might meet, you never know, you did that internship when you were a sophomore in college, and then come back and you've done a career doing X, Y, and Z, and now you're 30 and you want to change it up and go back to maybe where you interned when you were at 20. Those people will still remember that person they met at 20. That's what I'm saying is that a lot of times people don't forget, but yet again, it was networking, because you might not have ever had a chance with your foot in the door to get in with that corporation or that company or on that ranch, wherever it might be.
That vet clinic.
I did an internship with a coal mine.
There you go.
Environmental sciences. I mean, you really don't know where the path could lead. In animal science and agriculture, I think people don't realize how many different things you could get into. And that's what, you never know. John Deere, for example, I mean, we drive all their equipment to feed our cows or to plant our crops, but they need animal science people. They need all kinds of ag majors to talk to design.
How's the best way to
equipment.
build a darn thing that we can feed our cows?
They need
with
input
it.
from all of us. So that's it. The spectrum is huge.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. Such good wisdom. Dean even mentioned in the chat box, in just a few minutes, both of you have shared great wisdom.
Really,
It's so true. So kind of to play off this too, in terms of the extracurricular activities, because I know some people that will be watching this certainly have or will, or maybe in the future, competed on a judging team. And I know you talked a lot about, you do a lot of communicating in your field. So tell me a little bit about extracurricular activities when it comes to judging.
When you say, are you talking about like a livestock judging program? Is that what you're talking about?
Either livestock, horse, meat, dairy judging, but like I just in terms of how important that could be as we move forward.
1,000%. I mean, I started livestock judging when I was just a wee one. Rick knows that. When we were just wee ones is when I started livestock judging. That's when Rick even beat me up We'll tell that story sometime, Rick, about how you beat me up. No, darn it. But those judging programs, I don't, whatever they are, and oh my gosh, those are critical. If they're on maybe on the equine side or the dairy side, the livestock side, where you're giving oral reasons, oh my gosh, huge for what we're doing, because it teaches you to think on the spot. Very much teaches you to be able to read bulleted notes, not paragraphs, but to be able to, I think you heard that before a time or two, to be able to jot down some notes and then regurgitate that information. And then on some of those other judging, range judging is another one, but all of these wonderful programs that are through 4-H, FFA, and junior associations, it's being able to, when they give you something, a class of 4, range science, you have to go out and you have to analyze some grasses, that you have to make a critical decision and you have to defend that decision. Be it right or wrong, it is right in your opinion. And you have to be able to come up with why it is right. So you got to have some knowledge and you got to have some background to be able to defend that. It doesn't matter if it is on the, gosh, I remember when I was a wee one, there was the consumer products where I remember doing that. You went and judged, I think, like 4 cookies or something.
Yep, we still have
And
consumer.
Okay, those are just as important as any livestock program or meats program or equine program. Those are huge. I mean, there's several of us on here right now that all come from a judging background and judged for years. Yeah, so many. Yeah, over half of us have been on there, and that is just crucial to those communication skills of thinking on the spot. Were you in a judging program?
No.
I know I would not be here today had I not been on my judging program. All right, here's another big question, because I'm waiting for some in the chat. And you kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. So I'm sure you guys hear this too, but I know I get a lot of youth and a lot of college age youth coming in and they get very self-doubting. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I'm afraid I'm going to fail. What kind of advice could you give our listeners? Maybe a time that you have failed and come up from it or climb that mountain. What kind of advice would you give to them when they get into that self-doubting mode?
Absolutely.
Oh, failure is just part of life. That's the thing. I mean, you can wake up each morning and say, to me, I look at it as no different if you're going to ride a horse and you might get bucked up or whatever, you get back on, the old saying is, but failure is just going to happen, and you can either let it hold you down and hold you back, or you can realize that is truly life. It's going to happen. And in some ways, I joked the other day on the radio with a gentleman, and I said, you know what? I'm going to keep trying this, because if I fail, at least I put the mud on my face myself and someone else did it. What's wrong with at least knowing I tried? You're never going to, instead, I always say the word, why not? Why not? Because sit back and
take
look.
The shot.
Take the shot, as I said. Why not? Take the shot. Because who else? All I will guarantee is the couple of shots I may not have taken in my life, I've looked back and said, why didn't I take that shot? Even working with Tigger, getting used to a microphone. I was not on a judging team. I'll be honest, this has been one of probably the hardest things I've had to learn to do. And it's very much putting yourself wide open. But it's now becoming much more rewarding as I realize I'm getting that confidence again, is I can do this, even though it's something very new to me. So please just don't, I know it'll get stressful. You'll bring yourself down. You'll say, no, I can't do it. Mom and dad will be disappointed, whatever. No, I think your folks will be more disappointed if you didn't take that shot. If you didn't just give it all, because they support you from day one. When you were falling and learning to walk, all of us, our parents are our biggest supporters, and they would probably be more proud of you if they just knew that you gave it your all.
For me, I guess I don't like the 2 F words, which is failure and fear. Those are 2 F words that we do not allow in our vocabulary for a very big reason, and that is everything to me is perception. That's the most important thing that I think that I have in my life, that everybody does. And Some people will perceive it as failure, but I don't. I perceive it as it's a way I figured out how not to do it again. And I'm glad that I figured out now versus it took me another day. And and that's where my focus is, and that's where my perception is. And that's what keeps us going in a very intense, everything we do and I don't want to push people away from what we do in communications, but it requires us to think on our feet. When I'm announcing a rodeo, that's where that judging background comes in. That's where my auctioneering background comes in. I have to be able to think on my feet. And I do not focus on the what if I fail. Because if I focus on that, I guarantee I already did. I'm focusing on the success that I could potentially have. And to me, it's all about perception. Because if I focused on the things that I have failed, my goodness, I would have nothing to talk about with y'all tonight. I mean, it would just, so that's just how I really had to train myself to go about that. Failure is not part of my everyday life because there are no failures. What I am simply doing is accomplishing tasks, and I am figuring things out as I am going. I'm a black and white person. Beck is nodding. She absolutely is. You know, Zimmy can attest to that. Very much a black and white person. I either do it or I don't do it. There is no try. There is no failure. There is no fear in the middle. It's either this way or this way. I either did it or I didn't do it. And I figure out how to maybe do it again next time or do it again next time. That's how I go about things, and that's how I have to, because we work in a career of constant deadlines every single week, 52 weeks a year that we're working with deadlines, in addition to all the other, clients that we have that we do work for them too.
I know one other thing is to keep in mind is, I know we're saying just do it or not, and it's easy to say, but I know of another saying, it sounds weird, but it's not brave if you're not scared. And the reason why I say that is because I've had a lot of, especially young gals and those types of role models. I've worked very hard in a man's world, with my own cattle, things like that. I'm not I get asked to be in a roping pen or something, I'm going to do it. But I always get told, gosh, you're so brave. I couldn't do that. It's not being brave. I'm scared just like anybody else is. But it's a matter of making up your mind that you're not going to let that fear hold you back. And the reward that will happen once you conquer whatever may be ahead of you. And so it is just a matter of do or don't. Like you said, it can be very black and white, but we're all going to go through that stress.
But it's very interesting. Here we have two kind of similar ways of dealing with failure, fear, being scared of success, but yet two very different approaches, even though our goal is very much the same. And that's okay too. And that's us learning about ourselves and learning how we work and what makes us tick and what we get excited about. For example, I love to go to shows and fairs, and I can watch a pig show all day long with Zimmy. I mean, we can sit there, I can watch cattle shows all day long.
They can.
And Beck will just sit there and be like, and that's it. And, so it's knowing what we are. And that's okay. I want people to take that home, that there is no hard and fast rule here. It's about knowing who you are and being very comfortable with that.
Man, I love it. If there was a mic, it would be dropped because that was really brilliant. Thank you guys so much. And just again to reiterate, there is no silly question. So if any of you on this call have a question, don't be scared to ask it. All right. So here's a little bit easier question, hopefully. What is the favorite part of your job?
Wow.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to use, this just happened to us. I was doing a presentation for a cattle organization just on Saturday night. And one of the people that were there, they came up to me and they said, "Were you the announcer at Wing, North Dakota this year?" And he said, "I thought I recognized that voice. It wasn't because I was a great rodeo announcer. It was, I did a tribute. His father just passed away. I did a tribute to his dad. And I'll be honest with y'all, you can ask Beck, she runs my music. I had tears in my eyes too. I was choked up. That was one of the most amazing things I could have ever done, was to give a cowboy salute to another cowboy in a cowboy way. I wasn't expecting a medal. I didn't want a pat on my back. But when his son came up and said, that was the most amazing way to honor a man, and you did it in about 2 to 3 minutes. To me, that was so rewarding, because at least for me, I live a life of servitude to others. And when I know that I can do that, not to get complimented, not to say you have a good voice, not ever to hear your radio show was great, not ever to hear those things. If I know that I can do that purely for the love and the joy, because I believe that the good Lord gave me that gift, and we very much believe it's a gift and we give it away. That's what is the most rewarding thing in my job, because I know that at the end of every week, every radio show, every rodeo, every calf that we sell, that's a gift. And that gift is meant to be given away to other people. So what's the greatest thing about what I do? Everything. How can it not be?
Oh, wow. That's hard to beat. Man,
Sorry.
that's good. Wow.
You got the mic drop there.
Sorry. It was just interesting. It was it was amazing. I had no idea that this man's son was there on Saturday night, and that was so heartfelt that
You gave me goosebumps just telling me about it.
yeah, it was really neat, a really powerful moment. And even that there, it solidified. It's not just announcing bronc riders and who's up in the barrel slack. It's not that. It's giving a talent to other people. And it doesn't matter. It could be raising cattle, could be on a judging program, it could be extension work. Maybe some of you watching, you're going, you know what? I would really like to do what Leanne does. Or I would really like to do what Zimmy does. I would like to be a county agent someday. That is a gift. But remember, it's not for yourself. It's meant to give to everybody else. And when you do that, the rewards that come back to you are tenfold. And the happiness and the joy. That's why for me, there is no fear. There's no failure.
Man.
Another mic drop.
No, I'll drink my cup.
So good. So good. Do you have anything to add to that, Rebecca?
Can you tell what we do for a living is talk?
It's so cool. I love it. I love listening to you guys.
I have Tigger 24/7, Tigger time 24/7. And then we got the Beck show.
Right.
I love it.
No, I would agree with what Tigger has to say is I've always been somebody that enjoys hearing everybody's story, and now being able to have a platform to be able to share their stories, even on a broader aspect. I've always been somebody that comes home and is like, oh, did you know about so-and-so? Did you know? But it was always telling like the good stories in their lives, and the heartwarming ones, and what they had to get through to get how they got their ranch or their outfit, or working as an extension agent or anything, how they've been able to help others. And so that is what's most rewarding to me at this point in my life, is now I can share these stories with other people that are needing inspiration at this time in their lives. That's probably what's the most rewarding.
Oh my gosh. So awesome. I love this. You guys have done such a good job. Great. And Dean shared another wonderful compliment, that those personal experiences that you're sharing are so meaningful and important. So thank you guys for all these that you're sharing. Okay, we're going to flip it over. What's the worst part of your position? It's always ladies.
Are probably the deadlines, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
I would say the deadlines are the most stressful because, and it's not just so much a deadline, it's the fact that it could be, technology, fails, power goes out. You could be prepared for everything under the sun and moon, and that's about the time that something you've done a million times still fails on you. So it's the unknowns of the deadlines. I think that's probably for me, it's the hardest part. I think for me, that's the hardest hurdle is,
Everything that we do is a deadline. You're up against the gun, and I try to be proactive and not reactive. But what we do is react to everything that, with all of our clients, when, it doesn't matter, when we had, a train wreck breeding heifers this summer, and then you PG, we're reacting to that. If it's at a rodeo and all of a sudden, rodeo is a great example where I'm up doing my thing and she's playing the music and everybody's cheering. And then all of a sudden everything breaks loose and it's pandemonium because I had to say this announcement, or a bull gets loose or something. You have to be able to react instantaneously and move and move and move.
Adapt and improvise.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
constantly telling him those words. Adapt and improvise. Shake it off. Whatever just happened, don't let it ruin your entire day.
Right, and I'm very
It's like
organized.
the get back on the saddle thing.
Very
It's to let it,
structured, so-
shake it off and keep going.
That's the hardest part, I think, to be able to, what Beck said, adapt and improvise, because I am a ka-chunk. I mean, it is this way. I grew up in a military family. This is how it was. It was precision. It doesn't matter what we do. You can ask Brian. He's been many times. He has worked cattle at our place. He's hauled hay with us. And he's like, why does it have to be this way? Well, because it does. My golly, that's just how it works. So the hardest part for me has been to change maybe to, it's okay, where just because I dropped my pen, the sky didn't fall. It's, everything will be okay. So believe it or not, this is mellow for me.
Man,
I'm
that's
telling
so
you,
good.
Brian, Zimmy, I would like you to see how much I've gotten him to change a little bit. You'd be pretty impressed, I have a feeling. At the same side, though, he's introduced planners back into my life, and now I have to live also by some certain rules.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so you guys kind of opened the door for another question, because I love the wisdom that you just shared in terms of adaptability and change, and the world isn't going to stop, or the sky isn't falling, is what you just used.
He likes what I'm saying. You hear that?
I know, I like it. So what would you give, because obviously this year has been so challenging for our 4-Hers and youth just in general, things constantly getting canceled, things having to be changed at the last minute, them not, having big plans to attend a contest or an event in person, and then suddenly it gets canceled. So can you speak to them with some heartfelt wisdom in terms of that change, and that it's not the end of the world, and what maybe wisdom you can drop for that?
I'll jump in there with this one because, gosh, we talked with so many different people. For another great example, one of the people that's on there, Christina's daughter, was going to do an internship with us. Here we come back to internship, and we were trying to get something worked out for Chris's daughter, and then COVID hit, and then it just blew everything out of the water. And I crushed her heart, and I didn't mean to do it because I absolutely love that kid. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Your steer shows have gotten canceled. Rodeos have gotten canceled. Conventions have gotten canceled. All the stuff that we were supposed to travel to has gotten canceled. Weddings have gotten canceled. Everything, y'all, has been canceled. Here's the thing. We're right there with you. So are your friends. We're all in this together. I know it's depressing, but you know what? Your best friends out there that, I'm going to pick on Tana and Tegan, and they have the cute pictures right there with their kids. You know what? Your friends that love to show, and they're your best friends and you're texting them all the time, they're going through the exact same thing that you are. Nobody is immune to this. Your mom and dad are going through it. We're going through it. Dean is going through it. Leanne is going through it. All of us are going through it on every level. In fact, I just got the email today that one of the big Hereford shows just got canceled again. And all of my Hereford friends across the country are upset about this, but we're all going through it together. So if I don't know if that gives anybody hope, but remember that your friends right there with you, they're just as frustrated as you are, but thank goodness you've got your friends and you got your family and you got all of us, and we're all doing it together, and we're all trying to figure it out as best we can.
I love that. And it almost is perfect that we're actually in this week with Thanksgiving this next week, because we can point to all the things that we are thankful for and grateful for instead of what you just said earlier, focusing on the things that are the negative aspects. So thank you for sharing that wisdom.
Mary, did you want to add to that?
No, you did an amazing
Awesome.
job
I feel like
again.
I don't mean to dominate the whole thing.
The only thing I could think of though is for kids, or not for kids, but even for young adults and the stock shows and all of that, is be thankful that we have the technology we have. Look at this right now, what we're doing. I've gotten together with my girlfriends from everywhere, from Seattle to Chicago to Houston to Miami, Florida, and gotten together and just been able to, you know, sit and have coffee and catch up on everyone's lives. So if you think back, you know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do what we're doing right here. And I know a lot of you are, I like to consider myself very tech savvy, but I know many of you are probably much more savvier than I am. Use this as an opportunity to still keep honing those communication skills, working with your show heifers, working with your horses, and take your phone out to the barn with you. You know, you can do Zooms
They
like
have
this.
their phone in
Well,
their
they
pocket.
can, but you can do all this with your friends. So you can host your own mini shows. You can host and do different things.
That's a
And then
great idea.
what you don't realize is as you're practicing and like I just said, you know, say for example, do a mini show at home or something like that. You're broadening your horizons where you never know down the road. Somebody might be surprised to find out, well, wait a second, we thought there were no shows going. Oh, you guys are doing your
you're
own.
not, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in, but and with that, what Rebecca said, you're not focusing on fear and failure. It's not a fear. It's not a failure. I know you didn't get to go to the jackpot and you wanted to win the $500 with a champion steer. I know, I've been there, but it ain't gonna happen. It isn't gonna happen. So you can either focus on the part that it didn't happen, or like Rebecca just
Make
said,
the best of it.
make the best of it, because we're all in it together. And in fact, those people that you wanted to go see and have fun with at the show or at the judging competition, they're at home too. So it's not like we're the only ones, you know, everybody's in it together.
Mhm.
So where are we looking at? It's perception. Is it a fear and a failure, or is it an opportunity to just do something just a tick different?
I like that a lot, you know, especially when we're kind of honing in on the mental health of our youth right now, that's a really big aspect is perspective. So thank you for showcasing that, because that's such truth. All right, waiting for some other stuff to come in. It looks like Tana and Tegan, they made a fun comment in there that their family hosted a field day weekend for the North Dakota Junior Red Angus Association this summer. So they
Very
could
cool.
still have some fun. So thank you for what you said about that in the show barn.
And one thing about that, when we get depressed and sad for the same I shouldn't say the same reasons, but we get depressed and sad too. And there are things, be it, you know, Tan and Tegan, say the I know y'all have your state Red Angus sale is coming up here in another, I think, week, if I'm not 2 weeks. And if that is canceled, I know that makes a person sad. Say you had something in the sale and you needed the cash, right? When you get bummed out about this, talk to somebody. Please reach out, because you know what? They're probably sad too. And they are going to need you too to be a sad. So please, when we get depressed, we have to do that. None of us are immune to this right now. We are all going through these things where we're getting sad and depressed, where they're saying that we can't stay out after 10 o'clock if we want to go and have a steak dinner, that we got to leave the bowling alley early if we want to. Beck and I got into bowling. We'll tell you about that later. But you know,
I recommend it for everybody.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Bowling
fun.
is really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is super cool. So please talk to people, talk to your friends, because I guarantee they need you too. And that's the biggest thing that I can say, because we go through that right now. We're going through it. We're going into the holidays. I don't get a chance to see my mom and dad. And I haven't had Thanksgiving with them in now going on 12 years. And this was the first year to see them. And they live 20 miles down the road, and I'm not going to see them. So reach out and talk to those people. When you get bummed out about not going to a show or a rodeo or judging or whatever the case is, or anything, reach out to your friends. That's what they're there for. Friends, family, all of us, because we're all going through it together. Maybe I need to gripe too. So give me your phone number and I need to gripe about it.
I
Well,
love
and
it.
the way both of us are, we may not have been blessed with kids, but we sure enjoy helping youth any way we can.
Yeah.
And we've always both said that, like he said, our gifts, our talents are for a greater purpose than just for us. And so if there's ever ways that we can help and just lean an ear, feel free. We're uncles, we're aunts, we care about everybody. We're unofficial aunts and uncles to many people.
Whether they like it or not. I'm not saying y'all are gonna get a $2 bill and a birthday card. I'm not saying that.
What? A quarter? More like a quarter.
Right?
I love it. No, you guys have really come full circle in this discussion, talking about how, it's so much all about that we're in this together. And when we went back to even the first impressions, talking about leaning on other people and investing that in other people, because you never know who needs to hear that. And you might feel great, but maybe reaching out to a friend, and because maybe they need to hear it, they're just too scared or embarrassed to reach out. So thank you guys for sharing that wisdom, because we really are all in this together.
And you might want to note, Tana and Tegan are giving you a little clap for that. So good job.
I love it. See, there goes the tech savvy youth, getting on that animations and stuff. I love it. All right, so switching gears a little bit again. So you guys both do a lot of really neat stuff, and you guys span the animal industry in several different aspects with rodeo and the cattle industry, communication, ag broadcasting. What kind of characteristics do you need, and what kind of skill sets are kind of needed for some of those things that you guys do?
You want me to tackle that one first?
Go for
I
it.
just had some
Yeah.
things that for specifically what we go through. Interesting how we're kind of coming back kind of full circle with things that we've talked about. Back a little bit ago said open-mindedness, just being open. That is, I'm going to say, the biggest thing with what we do with the livestock industry, cattle industry, and promotion, broadcasting, entertainment, communication is being very, very, very open. Because one day we might, like in a normal year, we're at, say, the National Angus Convention, and we're talking with all of our Angus friends. And then the next week, I might be the keynote speaker, like I was supposed to be this year. Chris, you probably knew this, at the National Gelbvieh Convention at their annual banquet. So you need to be open-minded to everything that is around you within the realm of what you're doing. If you are really into, say you're really into rope horses, okay? There are more than just one bloodline of rope horses, okay? Say you're into cutting horses. They aren't all Peppy Sand Badger bred, okay? Be open to all of the different things, because you're going to learn something from absolutely everybody. And it's very, very, very important in what we do, because granted, we run, our own cattle, and we like this kind of cow, and we have this kind of truck and this kind of trailer, but we represent something bigger than us. So that means that we represent Angus breeders, Hereford breeders, we represent all of these manufacturing companies. We represent the consumer. We represent the American rancher. We represent agriculture. It's so much bigger. So for me, I don't mean to be carrying on. I kind of carry on all the time, don't I? But it's just being really open mind to absolutely everything around you, and don't get yourself pigeonholed over here or pigeonholed over here too hard. Right?
Well said.
I love it. Do you have anything to add to that, Rebecca?
He really blew it out of the park. But at least you're making me feel good that you're using some of the little bit knowledge that I have to add. You are going off of it.
I love it.
But no, he's absolutely right. Just keeping an open mindedness and keeping that door open, because you never know what avenue might lead you to where. And I'm even looking at who's jumping in on the call, and different people that I know that I've worked with myself, and you just don't. It's just crazy how this world goes. And, a pandemic falls into place, and, you look back and you always wonder, like, why did I do this job? Well, guess what? It might come to light down the road. So
And
always
I think
learning something.
It's important to, what are you committed to? if that be to what you want to do, or if it be maybe that your family is in the Solaire business or something, and you're committed to, you want to continue to raise Solaire cattle. Just had a conversation with a great young lady from Kansas not long ago that is the situation. Absolutely be committed to what you want to do and what you want to be all the time. But within that, there is so much that you can learn and really, really cool stuff. So that's why I say never, never, never pigeonhole yourself and be so open-minded, because I've done thousands upon thousands upon thousands of interviews in my day from all aspects of agriculture. And every darn one of them, something jumps in there and surprises me in every darn one. Now, I can't say that I'm the smartest man in the world from all these things, but I can say it certainly has been really, really, really amazing to learn something from all these. And a lot of things we've actually implemented right with our own operations. And some, believe it or not, even with me, a huge degree of success.
I love it.
One other thing I would also say is to keep yourself, when I say open-mindedness, I also look at things like diversification, like keep yourself diversified. It doesn't hurt to have your toe in your hands in a couple of different jars going on, you know? And if you think about agriculture, that's usually how it is. Rarely do you just have cows or just crops or just just do, work at the base, county extension. Usually you have your hands in a couple of different things. So
or at least willing to try.
Or willingness to try. And that's the other thing. Like we talk about failure again and those kinds of
there's
ideas.
no failure.
There's no failure. Because why not keep dabble and try these different areas, because then you'll find what works for you. And that's what's most important, is what will work for you at the end of the day. And to keep asking those questions. Never be afraid. There is a lot of truth to this statement of there's never a dumb question.
And that's why when Beck said a little bit ago about building up that network, yeah, this is why. Now you're getting it, because now start to ask those questions of, say, you're curious about extension. So then you go to Brian and you ask those questions. Or on a collegiate level, how does this work? And you talk to Leanne. That's why it is so crucial that even at a young age, even a teenager, start building up that database, because, you got you got a database right there, building that up. So now when you get to this point of, now, should I dabble here? Like Beck said, should I do this? Should I do that? You have got people that you can go to just like that.
I love that. I've always said the answer is always no until you ask. So
Very well said.
So true. Oh my gosh, you guys have been so much fun. Any questions out there? We're kind of coming to the end of the line, so I want to make sure that we're fielding any questions that anybody on this call might have. And if you don't feel like writing it, you can unmute your mic and go ahead and shout it out if you so prefer. Well, we'll give them a couple minutes. Is there any last wisdom that you would like to share with our youth as they are thinking about college, thinking about their careers? They are feeling so overwhelmed right now. Maybe they're scared because they are listening we have a couple people from Idaho and Illinois, and they maybe want to move to Fargo, North Dakota and go to NDSU. That would be a scary journey, moving all the way to a different location and maybe a little bit of the Arctic. So what kind of wisdom would you like to leave everybody with?
I'll let you go first.
I can see where there is the nervousness and with what's going on in the world to take that big jump. But again, life is like a which way book anyway. And really, if you have this desire or feeling like you should give it a try and you've, done a little deeper thinking on it, then why not? Give it that try versus you look back and say, wow, I wonder what would have happened had I moved out of the state or moved away from the ranch a couple of hours. What if? Because your family is going to still be there, and you can always, the saying, you can always go home. I strongly say is give it a chance, because nothing's worse than looking back and saying, what if? That's just one of those feelings you can't shake. So I would strongly push you to be brave. You've got this. Remember, we're all scared at anything we go to try and do. but the feelings that you will have that you knew you did this or gave it a try will be some of the most rewarding feelings you'll have, because you won't have that in the back of your mind. What if?
I guess maybe closing things of philosophy. I guess I'm just going to say, be true to yourself, but also understand that learning who you are is going to change all the time. And that is okay. That is okay. That will change dramatically in your lifetime based on careers and situations and friends and family and all of that. And know that it's okay. It's going to change and things will evolve and things will move on. And you never know. It's just kind of this little thing called life. You just absolutely never know, because you know what happens if you do nothing? Nothing.
It's true. So true. Man, you guys have been so much fun. I think even tonight, it was even a pep talk for some of my things going on in life. So thank you guys so much for your time. We know that it's valuable, and your wisdom that you've shared tonight. Oh my goodness. It's been amazing. I think this has actually been one of my favorite ones. So thank you so much for your time tonight and sharing with our youth some just such valuable perspectives and thoughts from you guys. I think we've already got a thank you in the chat from Vivian. So thank you guys so much. And with that, I think we'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
And we, like what Rebecca said, as we sign off, if anybody needs anything, you can find us. We're all over social media. Oh my gosh, Zimmy's got my number, and so does Chris. And
feel free to
and I think
friend
Rick
us,
does too.
follow
Yeah.
us, whatever you
Yeah,
want.
yeah,
Send
just
us
reach
a
out.
PM, a DM, all those things, whatever they're all called. But yes, we're here for you guys. And if we can help in any way as you transition this next step and even down the road, please reach out.
Because we're probably going to need help too, and we will reach out when we need help. That's the other
We're
thing.
not afraid to ask
We're not
for
afraid to
that.
ask for help.
I love it. Oh my gosh, you guys have been so wonderful. Yeah, I just can't thank you guys enough. It's been pretty neat. And I know that this was perfect, not just for me, but for other people that needed to hear your wisdom. So thank you.
You're welcome. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Be safe.
Yes.
And God bless.
Happy Thanksgiving to you guys too. All right. You guys have a good rest of your evening.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you.
y'all.
Great job. Thank you.